Hey guys, welcome to Dreamhouse Nightmare. I'm Adam, and today I'm going to be talking about acting. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, and before we get into it, if you like this video, or if you like any of the other content of this channel, please like and subscribe to this channel, and also follow me on Instagram at Dreamhouse Nightmare. So, acting. Where to even start? I absolutely have had a blast working in this industry for the past probably 10 years now. So I got into it by working at a coffee shop years ago. I worked there from like 2014 to 2018, and I remember seeing some film stars that would come in, and it was really weird to see them come in because these were very notable people that was on television, and they were in Tennessee. And I remember one of the ladies that would come in. I remember her being on like one of my favorite TV shows. She was a lead with Jennifer Lawrence in a film, and the other one was on like CSI Miami and things like that. So it was just really interesting to just instantly recognize them and be like, oh, who they were. But I remember the one that was on my favorite TV show. I talked to her a lot, and she came in for several years. And I want to say her brother lived there in Knoxville, and she would come and visit him very often, and that's why I would talk to her a lot. So she told me how to get into acting, and she told me about this agency, and I went to the agency, and I did the paperwork. First you did do an interview, then I did paperwork with them, and then they would put me through a program. Now the program was about, I want to say at the time, I'm thinking about maybe 2016, 2017, when I went through the program. It was about $1,200, but it was for 2 years, and I got to work with an acting coach to learn my craft, which is not bad at all. I mean, that's way cheaper than going to college. And yeah, so, also it's important to remember that when you do go to an agency, you don't pay money for a portfolio. That's something that you build, and they would build that for you by either taking pictures for you and putting them in there, or they would send you out to a photographer. Sometimes photographers do like to have someone to work with, to practice with, and things like that. There's different ways to get a portfolio. You don't pay for it. You don't pay an agency for that. Now, this was different. This was an actual craft that I needed to learn, and people pay a lot of money to learn this kind of stuff and go forth and have a career in this. So I understood why there needed to be a little bit of money up front for this, because I had no experience whatsoever, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, to be honest. So from there, I did the program, and for 2 years I got to work with an acting coach. She actually worked in Hollywood. Her ex-husband was also a acting coach as well, and they both have worked with some very notable people. Their method in acting was incredible, and they worked with A-list stars. So I knew that I was getting the best crash course in acting. But one of the things that really stuck out with me that I think is a very useful tool in acting is, and to let you know, I do method acting. So method acting is not for everyone. It can be really emotional. It can be really hard on some people. And I mean, we all, if you remember The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger, he, unfortunately is no longer with us, but a lot of people blame method acting for that because he was so submersed in the role, and that can happen. There's another story that I listened about Britney Spears when she did Crossroads. She turned into a different person in her real life. She turned into Lucy, the character, and she just had such a hard time breaking away from that character even after the movie was done. So method acting is not for everyone. It is not for everyone, and I can easily break away from it and not be in the character very long. And yeah, so what we would do is, there was a room, it was an audience, they had a stage, and they would bring up a chair, and they would sit that chair on stage, and then they would bring you in, and they would tell you, for example, I remember mine was, think about the person who hurt you the most, and tell them how you feel. So you had to look at this empty chair, Imagine that the person that hurt you the most was in this chair, and tell that person how they hurt you in front of everyone. So you're airing out your dirty laundry a little bit, but it was very effective. And of course, at the time, I used an X to talk about all the things they did, all the things that hurt me, things I didn't understand, and I got emotional, I got upset, I got angry, and eventually, by the time that I was done letting it out, I was in the floor with my head down, and the whole audience knew my story with that ex. And it was kind of embarrassing, but it's okay. It's acting. It's part of the process. We all had to do it. Everybody in that room had to do it. But I remember the coach saying, action, when I had reached the point of where I needed to be at for this scene. Now, my monologue was from one of my favorite films, The Notebook. And it was the scene where they are outside the house that he had redone, and he's like, what do you want? You know? And I went into that, not like Ryan Gosling's character, but I went into that scene with all the hurt, all the emotion, everything. And I remember, as an actor, I remember the most powerful thing that I have ever felt, the most powerful feeling, was I made that audience bawl their eyes out. And I remember the feeling of being able to make the audience feel what I was feeling without telling them. And when I say that is, yes, I did the scene and they understood what I was saying in the scene, but they knew prior to that scene all the emotion and all of the tears that I was letting out, all the anger I was letting out, the yelling, the screaming. For like 10 minutes I let this out, and as soon as I had reached my height, the coach said, action, and I went directly into my monologue with all of that power, and I let the audience feel what I was feeling. Now, this is powerful for many reasons. The reason one for me is you can talk to somebody in real life. You can talk to people, and half the people aren't going to listen to you, or they're not going to care, or they're not going to really understand how you feel. They can listen to you, but they'll never truly know how you feel. With acting, it's different because I made the audience in that moment feel all the hurt, all the sadness, all the stress, the heartache, the gut-wrenching feeling that I just wanted to vomit. They were feeling that with me as I acted out this scene. Now, it's different. I acted it out very different than Ryan Gosling did in The Notebook. And that is because I was going into it with my real raw feeling. And you don't ever have to give a monologue or deliver a line that you think needs to be a certain way. Like if it's a film that's very famous or whatever, and the actor does it this way, you don't need to be mimicking that actor. You need to be letting out your raw emotion to be able to let the audience feel what you truly feel. And that is method acting as well. Now, there are many different types of techniques, but this was the one that always really, really worked with me. And I remember at the time that I got done with that, the entire audience had to take a moment and take a break. I think they took like a 20-minute break that day. And they were trying to fit in like 3 to 4 people and letting them do their craft and then give breaks. But a lot of the audience was actually very upset and I guess very disturbed with what I had said prior, which is normal. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that a lot of people said that was disturbing. I mean, it was real life, and it's not to be taken lightly. I mean, these people were opening themselves up, and they were letting us see their true self, their true feeling on the inside, and letting that out on camera. So for different types of like exercises that you can do, as far as flipping a switch to, if you need to switch to something different real quick, if you're going to be happy here, sad here, mad over here, frantic over here, we would do different exercises. There would be, I think, like 6 or 8 of us in a group, and we would also be pretending, like improving, that we were in a van and we were driving, and one person would be asked to act a certain way, and we all had to mimic that person. So if we were frantic, we had to be like frantic the whole time, and we had to be like, oh my gosh, look over here, like, and just improv everything and be frantic with it. And then if we had to be scared, we'd have to be scared, or if we had to be like, like kind of quiet, or, like this, we all would have to act that way. And it was a great exercise to flip the switch real quick. And that was an exercise that I still do to this day, to flip a switch real quick, especially in between scenes and filming, because sometimes I might be doing like a very dramatic scene, and then a very funny scene, or vice versa, or then I have to be horrified, and then there would be scenes like where I had to scream and things like that. And when you do scream, I have to say that, like, screaming is not it is not an easy thing to do, and it's also very hard on your vocals. And I remember I did a film in Bell, Missouri, and I had to scream for like 4 hours, and I was screaming at a blood-curdling rate. Like, I was just screaming as loud as I could, as strong as I could. And the reason that I was doing it was because I needed it to be realistic for film, because what they were doing to me in the film was very traumatic, which I cannot discuss here on YouTube, but there was a reason I had to do the blood-curdling scream and things like that. So I did let it out for about 4 hours that day. And I had to go directly to another film set on another project, and I was gone, I think, like, in all total, like, it was 3 weeks. So I remember I was here for a few days in Bell, and then directly had to go to the other film set, and we were about a year and a half in filming. It took us a year and a half to film this movie, and we were finishing the last bit of it, and I lost my voice. And so I did go, and I would go to, like, the coffee shop and get, like, a steamed lemonade with a mint tea and put honey in it, and I would drink that constantly. And then eventually I just went and had to buy mint tea, honey, and put hot water in it and get it brewed, because that would actually help my voice. And I actually got my voice back within like a day and a half. I was able to get that back by soothing my vocals and calming my voice and not talking when I didn't have to. But it was part of the job. And I don't recommend that for everyone. I took my scenes very seriously, especially when it came to dying on screen, or portraying something like I did in that film where I was getting hurt. But with acting, it's important to remember that you have to let go. And by doing so, you become something different in the moment. You get to be anybody you want to be in the moment, and you're creating a character that's going to be that character for life. But you also have to remember, if you do something on film, whether it be nudity or sex or a lot of language, or the content, subject matter, you have to remember that film is for life, and it's going to be there long after you are gone. So I say that because I have also done things that I'm not too proud of in film, and it's there for life, and you can't do anything about it. And unfortunately, we live and we learn and we move on. But if you want to do acting, I'm not going to say just go to an agency. I'm going to say try learning your monologue. Learn the best scene that you love in a film. Learn the dialogue, the monologue of whoever is speaking the most. Like I would prefer it be not a back and forth between somebody, but maybe just like a long monologue where someone is like expressing how they feel, something that could be emotional. And you can also look up just like monologues that people have written or that's just online and learn the whole monologue, and then grab an empty chair and learn what the scene is. Read the room for a little bit. Read what the scene's going to be. And think about what that actor, or not actor, but character is thinking and feeling. And think about what kind of emotion would it be? Are they upset? Are they sad? Etc. And then talk to that person in that chair that's going to be imaginary, and talk to them and get yourself feeling that way, and record it on your phone. And then when you feel like you are at the right spot in your emotions, go into that monologue and then go back and watch it and keep doing it until you perfect it. And that is honestly my favorite technique in acting. I also will sometimes, like if I need a quick change in my emotions, I will go to my car real quick and I'll listen to a song that makes me feel a certain way. I will think about something that upsets me if I need to be upset for a scene and I'm not actually upset. I'll listen to different things, or like have little techniques that put me in that mindset where I can then go into it with the emotion that I need to have. That is pretty much my favorite way of really getting there. Now, in independent cinema, if you've ever worked on an independent film, and yes, I think about it, it's already got me stressed out. But in independent cinema, you have time constraints. And I feel like this is why that actor from that coffee shop told me to do independent cinema first. You have budget constraints. You don't have very much time. Most films, I have worked on several films that have been shot fully in 2 weeks. And that's like 19-hour days, off for a few hours, 19 hours, off for a few hours, 19 hours, off for a few hours, work 19 hours, off for a few hours. It's ridiculous. And you don't have much time to even think. And, I direct and produce and act as well in film, so I have like a million different things I'm doing on set. Whether it be getting the set design just right, the lighting needs to be just right. We have to go over the cinematography, I have to go over the special effects, I have to go over makeup, I have to go over hairstyles, wardrobe with absolutely everyone, and I give everyone a color that they have to have in their wardrobe. This is something that I think is important, but when you think about what you look like, especially for the actors, you also have to remember when you do auditions, that is different. You never want to show up to an audition with makeup. You never want to show up with any type of jewelry on, no nose rings, nothing. If you're going to wear anything, it needs to be a wedding band or wedding ring. That's it. Nothing else. You don't need earrings in. Your hair does not need to be curled or anything. It needs to be pulled back in a ponytail if it's long. And you don't need to have anything on your shirt, no graphic tees. You need to have either gray or black shirt. It can be a V-neck. You need to have blue jeans on and just a belt. And you need to have your pants pulled up, no pants sagging down, and just tennis shoes. You need to be a blank canvas for these creators to look at you and say, I can fix this person into the character the way I want to see them, but can they act and bring the character to life? That's what they're looking for. So when you do an audition, don't wear the jacket with all the makeup. And I've seen people put fishnets on, have tons of makeup, wild colored hair. wearing leather. I mean, you don't want that in an audition ever. And if somebody comes to me and I'm casting for a film, which I have done several times for other filmmakers and myself, and I have auditions and I have people come to me and do an audition for me, and they send their video in, and if they do not do it right, then I am not hiring them. The first thing that I'm going to look for is professionalism. Now, even though this is indie, I still treat it like it's Hollywood, because that's how you do a real Hollywood audition, is exactly that. You do not want any makeup on, no hairstyling, pulled back in a ponytail, no jewelry. The reason that I do that is because it shows how professional someone can be. If you may have many people who are in lots of independent cinema and things like that, and I'm not saying that they're not professional, but they probably don't know. A lot of people that is independent cinema, some of them have gone through training and some of them haven't. But if they have gone through training and they do the audition process perfectly, by the way that they're supposed to do it in Hollywood, then I know that they have been professionally trained. I know that they are doing the audition correctly and they are presenting that to me. And part of that presentation is showing their professionalism. So that's why I would hire them. Now, second to that is when you do an audition, you want to present yourself professionally. And the way that you would do this, and I'm just going to use an example. I'm going to use my production name, Pink Lightning, and I'm going to say that that's my agency that I work for, okay? So I'm going to walk in and say, hello, my name is Adam Freeman, and I am represented by Pink Lightning, and I will be auditioning for the role of da-da-da-da, and blah, blah, blah. And then take a moment, go into your scene, in your monologue, and then as you end it, kind of give an ending, and then break away and say thank you very much. And that is how I do a professional audition. This is important because if somebody wants to really get into this, this is what you're going to want to do. This is, if you really want to go on to do like SAG features, I would highly recommend doing that, and also trying different techniques, such as talking to the imaginary person in the chair, finding what triggers your real emotion. If you want to get into method acting, there's different triggers for people. And I'm not saying like trigger yourself to have an emotional breakdown. No, but it could be like how to be happy, how to laugh. If there's something that makes you laugh, think about it, and kind of stay on it for a second, and then go into your monologue. That is going to get you further than just acting it out. Now, some people can just act it out and it'd be fine, because there's different methods in acting. But this is mine. This is what I do. And I've done method acting now going on 10 years. And the thing about working in independent cinema is I've never been able to really do method acting because I've never had time on a set. I've always been doing set design, getting ready for the next scene, getting makeup done, getting my special effects put on, being with a special effects artist, taking a break for a minute and having lunch. And in the meantime, I'm reading my lines. And in between, usually when the day starts, what tends to happen on every set that I have been on is you have about anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour and a half in between each scene, just depending on what they're going to film, who's working. Typically, I've seen 20 minutes. I've seen an hour and a half. But in that time, you're going over lines with people. So I don't necessarily memorize the entire script. I have before. I now know that you don't have to a lot of times on independent cinema, because whenever they're sitting around and we're reading the script while someone's doing the set design or the graphing, they're checking the cameras, they're checking the lighting, they're setting up the room for the next scene. And you're going to be sitting there with the other actors, and usually everybody pulls out the script and you start to read the script, and you just read off your parts for the first few times, and then eventually you try to put that script down, probably about after your third or fourth time reading the scene, and then you just do it. And usually you get it right then and there. It's pretty quick. It's a pretty easy way to know your lines. And then there are some people who want you to know every line when you get to set. And if that's the case, then that's the case. You need to learn your lines. But I have found that most people do it the other way. And that's, I like to read the whole script and pretty much have a sense of what's going on in each scene and know pretty much my lines. I can pretty much remember them just by reading them a few times. But for people who do have a harder time memorizing, if you work in independent cinema, that's probably what's going to happen. You're going to have some downtime in between the scenes, and you're going to be able to sit there and go over that with the other actors, and they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to have the script in hand, and then you all are going to put it down, and you're eventually going to be running through it several times until they call you on set and film the scene. So that is pretty much all I really had to say about acting. So as far as techniques go, I would, recommend people to talk, do an imaginary monologue, improv, get in touch with your feelings, and remember, you are the instrument. And there is different emotions that every person has. And when you are going to be pulling those strings to pull that out, there is a lot of different ways that you can portray a realistic acting method to bring out that emotion in the character. And remember, whatever you film is going to be forever. So, put effort into it. I mean, a lot of people tend to want to get into acting, but then they don't necessarily want to put in the effort that goes into this type of job. It's a hard job. It's not easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress, but it's really fun and it is rewarding. So yeah, that is what I say about acting. That's what I recommend to start out by doing. And also grab a few friends and pretend you all are in a van. Have one person have a timer set. And we actually pre-did it. We would preset, if we had 5 people, we had 5 timers. Everybody had about maybe 3 or 4 minutes to start acting a certain way, and everybody needed to mimic that immediately. But it has to be very different between each person. So that's another way. If you have a group of people who want to get into acting, it's a perfect exercise to work on. But yeah, so if you like this video and you like this content, please like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at Dreamhouse Nightmare, and also leave a comment. Do you have any methods that you all like to do in acting? Is there anything that you suggest? Feel free to comment, and also I'll see you next time.